So I think to start with, I've got a couple of faces that I don't recognize. So, but I think everybody else knows everybody else from a couple months ago. But if you would introduce yourselves.
Sure. You want me to use the microphone?
Yes, please use the microphone.
Okay, it's working. I'm Bob Sorenson. I'm a retired police officer. I did 35 and a half years. I'm now the president of the Retirees Association and also still on the executive board of the FOP.
35 years.
Yeah.
And I'm Marla Kimsey. I'm the vice president of the Loggers Retiree Association. My husband was a policeman for 30 plus years.
Oh my goodness, we should stand and bow to you both. That is awesome. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
It is great. Did everyone get a copy of today's agenda?
No, I did not.
You did not.
I don't
Okay.
think,
You know what? I've only got one.
a copy of the agenda today.
No.
Do you have any?
I got one extra copy.
Well, I saw it on the website.
Yeah, I
so
saw it on the website.
Give it to him, because I know what was on it.
Okay. All right, there you go, my
Thank you.
friend. So everybody else has seen the agenda or familiar with it. Well, we're gonna go ahead and get started because we're just about 3 minutes late now. We wanna keep this on time. We've got a lot to discuss today, I think.
Teresa, do we press on this to be heard? I mean,
Yes, it has to be green.
What do we do? Press
Just press on the red, if you got the red.
The little.
the red button?
You,
Testing,
yeah.
1, 2, 3?
No, you, now you good. You see the green light?
Say it again.
Yeah.
Now we can hear you.
Hello? Oh.
No karaoke for you.
Okay. All right.
Oh, now, wait a minute. That was gonna
But I'll
be,
go for the beer.
I thought that was the highlight, Ron doing karaoke for us. No,
Was it? What's that?
that was gonna be the highlight, you doing karaoke for us.
Oh, okay.
No, okay. All right, well, let's get to the agenda. The first item is we need to approve July's minutes. So, do you have those?
Yeah, I sent them to you after the meeting,
Okay, yes.
so I never heard back though.
Okay, well then,
I haven't read the minutes, I received them.
okay. Well, let's go then. If we don't have the minutes in our possession, I'm sure I do, but let's hold that agenda item until next month. There wasn't anything controversial in the minutes that I read, unless anybody else has an objection to that going
So I
forward.
would typically send them to you for you to sort of say, yes, this is it, and then I'm sorry. I'm actually a little unclear as if I'm supposed to send them to everyone or if you send them to everyone before the meeting. Again, this is my second meeting.
Yes.
So,
this is just-
I'm not sure who does that.
Yeah, I guess my understanding is that you would send them to me, I would send them on, and that then we would approve them. But if we're off course on that, I'm okay with that. We gotta remain flexible. This is new to us, and we can hold that. There wasn't anything controversial, was there, Ron or Kendra, that you saw? I thought the meeting went really well. But if that's okay with everyone, we'll hold. Okay, we got that done. Well, the next agenda item might be the one that would take most of our time, and this is a held over from our July meeting, and we want to prioritize our issues, the issues that we believe that we should be addressing at least for a period of time. Ron, I know that was an agenda item that you offered up to us. Do you want to start that conversation? For us?
Well, I think the idea was after I get my last reappointment, started reading the chart in a little bit more detail, and I think we have a lot of opportunity to do things differently than we've done in the past. And I'm sort of the in-between. I think there's two of you more senior two more junior in terms of seniority. But I think we can take a positive approach to personnel issues. And so that's kind of, before we basically heard appeals. Somebody got discharged, demoted, or suspended. And occasionally the city would send us an issue to be discussed, and they made a recommendation, and we sort of like followed through on that. So I think we've got an opportunity to do more stuff. About half of our job, I'm not sure we've been really fully doing it. And so during what I think is going to be my last term here, I get about 3 more years, is I want to see us be more active and do things, to hopefully benefit the employees of the city of Independence and the community, whether it be recruitment of police officers, which I see as the number one priority, because we don't have enough police officers, and what we can do in terms of recruitment. I worked 23 years for a municipality in Iowa, but I'm a native of here, as a kid. And so Independence is my hometown. But I think there's some things we can do that we've not been doing. And that's kind of my whole approach.
Yeah, I think that's a great introduction. When you were thinking about that as an agenda item for this group, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I do want to say something, but
Go ahead.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, so and you and I talked about this before we even started these meetings. One of the things that I could really use your help on and would love for this group to be involved in is to look at the personnel manual, the policy and procedures that has not been updated for many, many years. I think that's a big role, at least in the past, of this group. And I've been working with our new lawyer, the Lauber firm, and they took our personnel policy manual and went through it and it's like a 6-page timeline on how we could move together through the policy manual, looking at each policy, where it's out of date, where there's been new laws, taking some administrative policies that have been put in place that I believe need to be actually in the personnel manual because they're that important. I would like to offer that up as a top priority in the. It's going to be a huge undertaking, and it's good, real work that needs to be done, and it's hasn't happened in a very long time. So I would like to offer that up. Again, she put together this, it's kind of aggressive timeline, but I would love to forward that to you all, and maybe that could be something that we work on together. Anyway, that's what I wanted to offer up.
Well, I think the thing about the manual is it seems to me to be the base of, we have to have that straight. We have to have that right. We have to have the right terminology. If we're going to make decisions going forward based on that document. So if we don't have it accurate, we don't have something that we're all comfortable with, I don't know that we can start anyplace else, really. Now, it's probably very tedious. It may take us a while to get through that, but I am in favor of that being a starting point. Anyway, I've written that down. Anybody else have any comments or questions about that? Kendra?
No, I think that should be the number one priority, is
Okay.
updating those procedures and everything, because, we're all, most of us are seniors.
Well,
And
now,
so
wait a minute.
senior members of the board. So,
I'm just
Policy,
yes, I think it's
HR policy.
imminent.
And,
Ken,
I was asking,
well, let's not talk over each other. Let's address things. Do you mind, Ken?
No,
What were you saying?
My name is Carl Blair for the record.
I'm sorry, I called you Ken.
Okay. She
I
called
just
me
changed your name.
She called me Ken. My name is Carl Blair, just for the record. And I was just curious, is you're speaking about the HR handbook or guidebook, policy book, and it needs revision. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, I'm specifically talking about the personnel policy and procedure manual
Okay.
for the city of Independence.
All right. I think that's an issue that we need to address and take care of.
For instance, I just want to, like, for example, there's the new work leave for domestic violence that became law. I mean, that's something we should put in our handbook. I think Juneteenth is something we should talk about. That I would love to put that on the table. And if that's something that you guys think, we should talk about as a holiday, and that's something I think that should be recommended and would need to be put in the handbook. Things like that. So Juneteenth is another one that I would like to put on the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, given all of that conversation, are there any of us that would object to that PMP manual being number one priority? Sounds like we're all in agreement that it would be. Do I see a yes? Okay, yeah, okay.
Yes.
Ron?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time hearing you
Oh,
with the mask on. And
I know.
so,
Is this better?
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. I've got the voice. I know it's there.
Okay. So I don't want to answer yes when I'm
Okay.
guessing.
So my question was, so we've had some discussion now about the PMP manual and that it's forward that we would like that to be a priority for this group to revise. We've got some outside help for that, but is everyone in agreement that that's the direction we should go? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the policies, I kind of hesitate to get into, I worked a number of years at Sherman Medical Center, Lakewood, and, and to redo a personnel policy as a committee was cumbersome and not very productive. And sometimes it's better if one person does it and then the committee inputs into it and reviews it. And, there are certain issues, like she mentioned, the violence issue, that maybe the group would have some ideas to input.
If I may.
You may.
So the attorney, like I said, put together, it's like pages. So what they're suggesting is that because it is in the charter that this committee would look at policies and changes and present them to council. My understanding is that it has to go through that process. So they've put together, and I will forward this to you as a backup to these meeting minutes, but they have suggested like taking each section and they would review it first for, where have the laws changed, where, an LRB, those types of things. They would put that into a document, and then we would look at it together and say, yay, nay. Do we want to put in different recruiting methods? Do we want to put in a different minimum wage? I mean, you brought that up. I mean, that would be then our opportunity to, other topics will come up as we're talking through each chapter and each section. But the first run would be them taking that and looking at it for correctness, where the laws have changed or where, we're a little maybe out of step. And then that would be where we would, if we have any suggestions or anything, and then boom, that section's done. And then we move to the next section. So again, they've kind of outlined it in this timeline.
that seems pretty organized to me, and I'm a proponent of organization.
So the real work we would do on the back end and present it to you all to review, to make suggestions, and then approve, or take the recommendation to whoever is supposed to approve it.
Yes.
Chair. I agree. I would ask that the document they've put together, and of course I haven't seen it, Jennifer, but that they put it in, they triage it, I guess I would say in medical terms, which I think is what you're indicating. First of all, is if there are differences in law versus what's in our policies and procedures, those are huge risk management issues that have to be handled first. Like Juneteenth, definitely something we want to get to, but I would like to see a triage from them, and I think they probably have done that. Mm-hmm. What is the most important things that we get in there? And I think once we look at that, and I think we should decide on a procedure to look at the changes they have that they're recommending to see how many we can handle in a meeting. Can we take one or two, or we plan on two, potentially three, so that we have time to read up on I'd like to see a red line copy, so the old and the new, so that we have time to compare that. Mm-hmm. And I personally would like that at least a week in advance of our meeting, so that I can understand where the changes are. We can all understand that to bring our questions. Then I think also we need to decide on a policy that if we get one done or two done, are we taking those to the council as we have the different pieces? Because I believe we also have to, there's going to be a process here where we're going to have to get these changes, have a meeting talking about, like, say, change number 1 and change number 2. And then we're going to, if we have a discussion and we decide that we want to make a change or adopt or, whatever we decide on, then we're going to have 10 days notice for another meeting to have personnel be able to read that change. Then it's going to, then we meet again, say, yes, we're final approval of this, that kind of thing. Then it's going to go to the council. Are we going to do that on a, quote, piece by piece? Or are we going to do that once we're through all the pieces? And I don't know what their timeline shows. So those would be my questions on the mechanics kind of the plan.
Well, I think we can do it however we want. However, that's a really good thought, Laura. Do we take each piece, for the 10 days and then re-meet and then take that to the council and then do the next? Or do we do everything, each piece in this room, and then as a whole put it out for comment? And that, I think they have this lined up that we would do it in pieces. Mm-hmm. The whole process would be for each piece of the manual, but that may or may not be the best way.
And have they included in there the time frame for, okay, if you do this, then the 10-day window and all that? Have they accounted for that amount of time? Because this isn't, even if we decided on one today, it's going to be a month before it would get to council by the time you have a 10-day notice. And I'm also concerned when you do something like that, oftentimes in virtually any document, you change part of a document that could refer to another part of a document, that we have to ensure that we're not tripping on ourselves to make changes in what we see as one piece, but now there are other things that need to be done. And I believe the policy and procedure manual, like say we took, I'm just picking 1-2 topic, and we get all that approved, it goes into the policies and procedures, and now the personnel policies and procedures has been amended for those changes effective November 1st. And then a month later, we have another set. Now the personnel policies and procedures are updated through December 1st. I see both sides of wanting, if there are pieces we can change, but I also think that it would not hurt to get I think we need to think about that, about piecemeal versus the whole thing. So could I ask the question, if, depending on their timeline, just their timeline as it is, how long do they think it will take to get this done?
Through the end of next year, so December of 2022. So this is not a quick project.
No, which is concerning, again, because if there are law changes, and I didn't bring my copy, but don't know if there's a phrase in there that says if the law should change regarding FMLA, the law supersedes the personnel policies and procedures. I don't really like the idea that we're going another, 15 months, with things that aren't up to date for the law.
The law always supersedes a personnel manual, just FYI.
Sure.
And certainly practice, as you all know, as HR professionals, practice sets precedent. So, and in some cases that has been done. So really it will be putting the document to practice precedent and, up to date is really what we're doing. I mean, we don't even have an ethics policy at the city, so they're like recommending we do some sort of an ethics policy, which I think is a fantastic idea. I mean, if you search ethics in the personnel policy manual, the word never comes up once. So
Do we also not have a social media policy?
we do have a social media policy, but it's an administrative policy, and so that's the other thing. We gave them a whole list of the administrative policies. So the question is that an administrative policy or is that a personnel policy and procedure policy? Social media, cell phone usage. That's probably an administrative policy. I don't believe that needs to go in a handbook. The handbook is in my mind, is supposed to help guide culture, practices, policies, the deal breakers, like the laws, those types of things.
Anything that could result in disciplinary action.
Correct.
Unless there's, like you said, if there's a supplemental policy, say for, I'm just going to say IPL, that says, they're not concerned with people using their cell phones because they have to for their jobs or something like that. But I think, of course, we have a lot of our benefits are negotiated benefits through a contract. So a lot of those, those things are covered there. But I think based on what I'm hearing, given that they're looking at 6 pages and you gave them a list and some other things, that I think we should even try to meet sooner than a month from now. Like 2 weeks from now to start looking at these, because I think we're going to have to put these in priority order and figure out how we're going to take them. And I think we should lean on the law firm or the Human Resources Department to ensure that if we are taking up a piece, is that a piece that is autonomous and like literally autonomous, that it's not going to trickle over to 4 or 5 other policies that we can't do one piece without doing those. I think I made my point. So.
You turn that on for a reason.
Okay, other comments about this? I do like the idea of a piece by piece approach.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be less overwhelming to us. We'll know more as we get into it. I may be making a bigger deal out of it than what I need to, but I don't think so. And I would be fine with meeting more frequently because of the volume of work that we're going to need to do just with the PFP. Now I know we've got some complications, perhaps, with scheduling that frequency. Any other comments? Piece by piece?
I think it should be done piece by piece.
You do, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Am I allowed to make a comment?
Of course you're allowed to make a comment.
Let's see if I can get this working. Okay. That's kind of the reason I'm here today. Policies and procedures. Well, I was a policeman. have a direct impact on all employees, especially when there's changes. I'm not saying that they probably shouldn't be updated. They probably should, but I think certain policies affect employees that are currently employed. There's policies that affect retired employees. There's a big impact on what those things can do when you're working for the city or even after you're retired. I would hope if you're going to start addressing these issues, that the agenda would be specific on which issues you're going to address, so that the current employees and us retirees know if there's an issue that's going to be addressed by this personnel board, we are aware of it ahead of time, and that we definitely can be present to hear what's being said. I guess I'm kind of taken back on what I had thought the personnel board's purpose was from all the years I was an employee. My dad even sat as the chairman of the personnel board many, many years ago. And I thought by the comments that were made earlier that you addressed things when employees brought them to you if they were upset about maybe a disciplinary action or a firing, that's what the personnel board was for. And I also thought the personnel board was for when the city wanted some changes in the personnel policies and procedures, they brought those to you. It seems like if we're going to address the whole total gamut of personnel policies and procedures, there's going to be a lot of times, I believe, employee groups and us retirees are going to be very interested in those discussions. And I'm kind of shocked that we're doing it this way. I'm not saying it's wrong. I agree it needs to be correspond with the laws of today. If they're not, they do need to be changed. But it seems like a big process, and I just want you to be aware that I want to know ahead of time what's going to be discussed. If it's something that directly affects retirees, I'm the president of an organization that represents over 1,200 of those people right now, which is probably bigger than any other organization in the City of Independence. I know you're all familiar with some of the battles we've had over the last few years. I just want to keep apprised of that, and I'd like it to be definitely broke up into parts, and specific parts are going to be discussed by this personnel board. I'd like to be made aware of what parts are going to be discussed. If there's going to be changes recommended, I'd like to at least be privy to those conversations. Thank you.
That seems fair.
Teresa,
Do we have,
I'm sorry.
I think we passed the microphone here.
I'm sorry. What did you have a comment?
My name's Henry Carner. I live at 3731 South Milton Drive. I'm a retiree from the city, past president of the Firefighters Union, past head of the Coalition of Bargaining Agents. Been a while since I've been there. The last time we had a major revision, and if I may, I was working for a city when his dad was the chairman of the personnel board and an officer of the Good Government League, so I'm pretty well aware. The last time we had a major revision, and it worked out well for the city and the employees, was that the personnel director sat down with the Coalition of Bargaining Agents, and we went over it. And no one was trying to play funny with either one, but we were working our way through, and we developed a substance abuse policy, several other policies that we worked collaboratively to bring about something that everybody had at least had a full say in before it come to you guys. Mm-hmm. That would be my plea, that you would approach a full revision of this by sitting down with the Coalition of Bargaining Agents. If you think an issue is going to affect retirees, Bob Sorensen's our elected spokesman for ourselves, and we highly respect him. There was one other point. Our health care, I think that come up at the last meeting. The health care we had was something that was promised us when we came on the job. I know it's costly, but it was a cost of doing government, and it was a recruitment tool to bring people on. Now they've changed it to where you can't have health care in retirement, but we took less in wages for that benefit in retirement. Because back in our day, the public employees weren't comparable. Now it's gotten a little better over the years, but when we were working there, we weren't getting on par with other people. So one of the benefits for our job was healthcare and retirement. And with all due respect and love for you guys, if we have to fight for our health care, that's a tough deal for us. We don't have options. It forces us to do stuff that we otherwise wouldn't do, where we'd rather be supportive of the city, and be proud of the city. But that's big medicine to take that away from us or alter that in any way. So it's our plea that I know I can't argue everything's sacrosanct, but that's a big deal with us. And I'm in a nice way trying to say that is going to be a bad hill for all of us to try to climb. And that's my plea, that we don't climb removing the health care from the retirees. We're at a point where we need it more than anybody else at this point. So my plea is that you work collaboratively with the Coalition of Bargaining Agents. I would ask that you seat Bob at those meetings if he's willing to. But I would ask you to please consider that approach. Let's sit down with what we're looking at and work it through together. Because I don't know that I was pretty much of a hardhead. I don't think you got hardheads now in the leadership roles. So I think you got people that would work probably better than I did at the time. So that's my plea. Thank you for the opportunity.
Teresa, could I to address both points that Bob and Butch made. First of all, I want to reiterate, and I hope that we can, as a group, and if I need to make a motion to do this, I will, but that we agree that meetings are put on the schedule, which I know that the monthly meetings now are on the schedule, the calendar, which is where people can go see what's going on, and they're out for that period of time. We know that. And if we add more, of course, then those need to be added. But we need to follow a specific agenda down to the letter, just like we hold our city council subject to doing that. They put out their agenda yesterday for the study session on Monday. Unless there is an emergency, and I mean like truly an emergency type thing, they stick to that agenda. Those are the only topics that they will discuss on a Monday or Tuesday night, depending on when the meeting is. Because not only in the case of the citizens to the city council, we need time as citizens to understand what's going to be on the agenda for the city council. So we have time to have input to our council members and to understand and research and do what we want. This is a situation that is even more specific in that we have a group of 1,200 retirees. We have a group of however many, another, I'm going to throw out 1,000 employees that we have that are current, that need to know exactly what's on the agenda. We are going to discuss personnel policies and procedures, section 1.23, amending changes for whatever on that agenda. And I think that we need to set it up like the city council does on their agenda, where it's not just section 1.23, whatever it is, but then there's a link to that so that people can see we're talking about the language that is here now and the red line copy, so that they can have a chance to digest all this, because it affects every one of them individually. Not only does the city council affect all of us in general, but this is something very specific. And that needs to be, I hope we can agree that has to be out a week before the meeting. So if it's a Friday meeting, it's on the previous Friday, so that whoever needs to review it, meet about it, talk about it, reach out to us with their thoughts, any of that stuff can happen. I know we discussed this in the previous meeting, and that's what we agreed to do. I know it didn't work out this way for this meeting, but I just believe we have to do that going forward. We are doing ourselves and an injustice by not doing that, because we are going to have people who are going to be upset if they don't know what's going on in advance. Second comment I will make to what Butch said, I believe that anything to do with the healthcare Stay Well plan needs to stay with the Stay Well committee. That is a specific committee to address all things healthcare. Unless they come to us with something that is a piece for some reason that we have to approve because it affects a policy and procedure, personnel policy and procedure, I hope that we agree to stay out of that committee's lane. They have their lane, they know how to work that lane, they have all of that contacts with the city, with the retirees, with the current employees, with the coalition, all of that. So unless they come to us with something, we stay out of the Stay Well insurance lane. Thank you.
Excellent. Yes, Ron?
Yeah, maybe I can just slip this off for just a comment.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, what Mr. Carter and Mr. Sorenson said, I totally agree with you. And I will never vote to take anything away from the retirees for sure.
Right.
Because, like you say, you have been guaranteed that as virtue of your employment over many years, and you retired honorably with the City of Independence. And that's not what I think this board is all about. We want to do some positive things for the city, and it's like I said, I'm not sure we've been really doing everything that was in the code. We pretty well did the hearings, and we did things that were brought to us by the city. And I think we need to be more proactive and to be supportive of the employees and the retirees. And, I'm not running for office or anything. So, hey, I'm just telling you from my heart, I'm a retired city employee from a different city in Iowa, actually, although this is my home since I was a kid. So, and I don't know that anybody on this board would disagree with that, but they can speak up for themselves. But that's not the purpose. And the last thing is that anything that we want to make changes on or the city, we basically want you to come here and input into it. Because we're just citizens. I mean, we don't work here. I mean, we're just appointed citizens for a given term. And as you recall, I think Mr. Carter was there when the prior HR people brought a policy to the board having to do with, I think it was more like layoffs, and we didn't have a quorum. But I know a couple of us would not have supported the city's approach on that. We didn't get to vote because we didn't have a quorum. But again, we're in support of both active retirees, active employees, retirees, and recruiting people to be on the fire department, which we need, and the police department, which we really need too, because we're way down on people, and we just need that for our community, for the safety of the community. So that's my little speech. Sorry to talk so long, but
That was good. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you for that reassurance. Thank you.
yeah.
That's very good. Okay. Should we go back to the process that this group wants to use for updating the P&D manual? I don't know that we got that resolved. In my mind, we didn't. So, an example is we talked about an every other week or twice a month meeting. Yes.
Okay, so I just want to say, if we're going to do this twice a month or every other week, that is a huge burden to try to get that all out a week ahead of time. I mean, that almost seems impossible to do every other week. I don't know what we could accomplish in a week and then have to get it posted for 10 days or however long for the next week. that seems like an impossible task. And I don't disagree with what you're saying, Laura, about having to put it out there so people can see it. I think that's a good idea. But I do think once a month, that's very doable. Every other week would almost be an impossible task for even employees to be engaged in that. I mean, it's just so busy. So I would plead with this group to no sooner than once a month. It just that feels almost impossible.
I agree with your meeting once a month to do the procedures and policies. That way it gives Bob and his group and everybody a chance to read those. And yes, it would be burdensome. And meeting every 2 weeks to go over procedures and policies is just like we're rushing through it. And I don't want to rush through something like that. I want to give the community time to be able to read those updated versions of the policy and procedures. That way they have a say, and they have a say in what we do.
Can I amend my thought then? I would agree with you, and I understand, and a month goes by like that. Maybe I guess my original thought, and this is maybe what we could do is, we've got this list, and we're going to, and presumably the lawyers are going to be able to triage this for us.
Or can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I will get closer. Is that better?
Is that better, Butch?
Yeah, thank you for the reminder. I'm sorry.
In my ears.
I'm not used to speaking into the microphone. So my concern is if we wait a month to take a look at a document that is, 6 pages long with a time frame, the issues laid out, we're going to spend that meeting trying to prioritize what we're going to do at the next meeting, which is the next month. So maybe a thought would be, is we meet in 2 weeks just to look at this document. So the agenda comes out next Friday, that says we are going to review the attached document to help prioritize what we're going to do going forward. So we're working on the plan in 2 weeks. We're not talking about anything specific other than the plan of attack. If we take a month to make a plan of attack, then we're not talking about anything until Thanksgiving or so. Oh gosh, the year's going by. So that, I guess, would be my suggestion, is a plan of attack meeting in a couple of weeks, but no specific discussion of any policy change, but that agenda come out with that document attached, so that anybody who wants to go out and look at the agenda, can see that.
May I speak?
Yes, you may.
And I think the province of when you have the meetings for formulative purposes is totally up to you guys. And I think there's some idea of a 3-day notice,
1 week.
1 week. Okay.
I want it to be a week. That's my suggestion.
Okay. Well, 1 week would be great. It's my understanding if you do propose a change, according to the charter, it has to have a 10-day notice. Now, there's nothing requires that the retirees rep gets a specific notice because it's supposedly on the boards. And I'm thinking, would you're planning on having a meeting where you're going to identify what areas you want to look at for amending or changing? Is that my understanding? Am I right about that? Okay, and
that would be my suggestion based on the document the attorneys have put together.
have you embraced an idea about whether to put the coalition? See, when we did it with the coalition and personnel, 10-day notice, no fuss, come before, and there was no. And I think there might have been a comment or two, but it was kind of a settled piece of business that came before the personnel board. Now I'm hoping that's what you guys want. So I don't know if you've come to a determination to sit down with the your like 5 changes you're getting ready to do and hash it back and forth. And I don't know, but that was my point about the timing. Was it 10 days if you're actually going to change? And I don't know that anybody has anything to say about formulating. Although it would be kind of fuzzy. You're formulating it if you guys are actually formulating change versus having a change presented and it's justified by personnel, and then the employees have a position to argue. I don't know that you guys would have to kind of feel through that to see if you're more of a deliberative body than a development or executive body. And I think you're more of a deliberative body, but I've said enough. Thank you for the time.
I think we're kind of unable to specifically say, exactly what we're going to do because I haven't seen this document, so I don't know how detailed it is. I don't know the topics it covers. I don't know if it's 10 topics, 20 topics,
Right.
So that's why I think we need to get the document out to the members, and we meet again in 2 weeks to talk about that policy, because that procedure, because I don't know what's on. I just don't know what's on there. I didn't even know we had this until today. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but we have to know what's on there, and I just don't know what's on there. I mean, there are going to be, I believe, some things that are required law wording changes.
Exactly.
Right. In which case the attorney tells us this is how it has to be said.
Yeah.
And we say, yes, we're going to go off of what the attorney says because that's the legal law, like on an FMLA or all the different things. Then there are going to get to be other items, I think, that will be more not specific, to a law, something that has to be done.
I agree.
So I would hope we could knock out some of the law things first. Now, of course, we still have to get the 10-day period regardless. If we see it, here's what we currently have, here's the red line, the attorney is saying, this is what has to happen. We come to a meeting and we're like, yes, we've read all of this. It was presented 7 days in advance for anybody to read. We meet, say, yes, we agree with what the attorney says. We schedule a meeting for 10 days later so that's when we finally take the up or down vote on it. And then if there's issues, again, like I think most of the law things, we're just going to have to accept that that's what the law change has to be. But if it's something more specific and we want to meet with the Labor Coalition, or the Labor Coalition wants to meet with us, or Bob and his executive team want to meet with us as we get closer to those, that's again where I think having an agenda out that is very specific, 7 days in advance of a meeting, will allow for those things to generate. But until I see what the plan is, I don't think we can get any more specific than that, which is why, again, I'm suggesting a meeting in 2 weeks. Hope that answers my thoughts.
Other comments about our comments. So what I hear us all saying, or what's on the table, is that potentially, or hypothetically, we would meet again in 2 weeks on Friday, then whatever that's going to be. And the agenda for that meeting is, no? The agenda for that meeting is that we would have an opportunity, that this group would have, or this committee would have an opportunity to review the document that the lawyers have put together for us, this piece by piece outline. And that from there we could go forward and decide the frequency, or when the next meeting would be, specifically what that agenda would be. Am I stating all that correctly? What we have discussed so far, Kendra?
Yes, I think you
Okay.
stated it correctly.
Ron? Carl, did you have a question earlier?
Oh,
No,
my
you're-
body reacts sometimes.
Okay. Glad to know that. My body reacted. Okay.
with my brain.
So would it help
Okay.
if I,
Brain
So-
Oh, God, I'm
so
sorry.
would it help if I made a motion to what I think we're
That's
talking
a
about?
great idea.
Okay.
Let's do that.
I would like to make a motion that the next personnel board meeting be held on September 24th from 10 to noon in this same building for the express purpose of reviewing the plan presented, the documents presented, however that word is, by the attorney to discuss the process only for how we're going to proceed. The agenda would come out on no later than September 17th, to include a copy of the documents that we would be provided, including basically this lawyer's assessment. Period.
Okay, so we have a motion, very well stated. We have a motion, and I'm looking for a second
A second.
to that motion. Okay. And now everyone in favor of that motion with an aye?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Okay, that motion is, and were you able to capture that? Okay, great. Okay. I think we've made a huge step there. So thank you very much. I appreciate you stating it that way. That's great. Okay. Does that motion and where we are, that gets us through agenda item number 2, prioritization of issues? Does it not? Can you hear me?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm so sorry.
I like to claim it's my name.
Does that? So does that motion satisfy everyone for that agenda item number 2 that we have for today? Prioritization of issues. I think it does. Any questions or comments or good jokes or yes?
Forgive me.
No, I won't.
Would you?
We won't do that.
Al, I don't know if I'm right in asking this. Would we be able to get a copy of what Laura was saying? What would you be at liberty to let us have it soon after you get it?
Well, it would be in our minutes. And do you have access to our minutes?
Is it on the internet?
Yes.
He would not have access to the minutes until we approve the minutes, which will not be for another time.
Another time.
So what I would suggest is that because this document, once it comes out to us, is a public document, then I see no reason why it can't go to others in the
I agree.
public.
Yeah.
And I know I have Marla's email, and I think I have yours too, but I think maybe what it would help is if you would provide your email addresses to Teresa or to Jen to say, if there's a public document, something that can be made public going out, please provide it to us as well.
So the answer is we can have it, provide the email to the personnel director? Human resources, sorry.
Yeah, I see no problem with that.
Yeah. To me, once that's out
I
to
think that's-
us, that's a public document. So we should be able to release it to whomever.
Thank you very much.
And I think it's very appropriate that you understand the motions that we're making because they're involving you and you're, anyway. So I think that's very appropriate. Thank you for your request.
And then I was going to address your point about prioritization. I know that discusses the prioritization of the policies and procedures manual changes. We have down further on the agenda some other items
Yes.
that I don't want to jump ahead, but I assume they should be part of a prioritization project. However, and forgive me, I'm not looking at the particular items, but I think given the discussion of this being the foundation and the amount of, the foundation of our everything and the amount of work that we're biting off, to chew on this, that we do not move forward with other items such as a discussion. I believe one item is the $15 minimum wage. I would let you come bring each of them forward, but I think that as far as prioritization, we need to talk about those items as well. But maybe we need to bring those up one at a time to discuss prioritization in relation to this amount of work that we're picking up, if that makes sense.
She has mine. You have mine. Oh, you have mine.
Do we have a discussion back here that we all need to know about?
No, just getting the email addresses to her so that she can
Thank you.
forward that stuff. That was all that was. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah, I don't want people talking over people.
No.
Because this stuff is so important, and I want to capture it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I agree that these other issues that we listed on the agenda, minimum wage, bonuses related to COVID, those are going to surface, I think, as we go through the PMP manual. I can't imagine that somewhere in that process, these other issues are not going to surface.
Right.
Minimum wage is going to surface. Ron?
I'm not hearing what you're saying that we need to do with those issues.
I'm so sorry. Ask my family. They know that I've got this big, loud voice. What I was saying is these other issues that we listed on today's agenda as part of what we're going to talk about over the next month are going to surface anyway as we go through the personnel policies manual. So COVID bonuses, minimum wage, recruitment of officers, police officers, fire officer, I guess we don't call them officers, but firemen and policemen, those are going to surface.
I'm not sure that these issues have anything to do with what we're talking about in terms of the policy review. I think they're sort of standalone issues, philosophical issues.
I would agree with Ron because a bonus to people is not going to be discussed in personnel policies and procedures. Minimum wage.
That's a comp matter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Minimum wage is going to be, I believe, an issue that is going to have to be, one is going to be a huge part of the budget discussion. I think that needs to be taken up by the city manager long before we take up that discussion. That needs to come from the direction of management. I don't think it's something that we should jump into. It's not going to be addressed in the policies and procedures because we have a separate pay table document that has all the pay schedules in it. So that will not come up in that, which my intention when we move to that item will be to make a motion to table that indefinitely. The issue of COVID bonuses, again, is a large budget issue. I don't think that we should take that up on our own. I think that should be run through the city manager's office and of course, then down through the departments, Jennifer and all the departments to discuss whether they want to do that. That's not going to come up in a policy and procedure. I'm sorry, what was the other topic? The recruitment of firefighters and police officers. I'm also going to make a motion that we table that. I don't know how many of you were able to watch Tuesday night's meeting regarding the police, the MOU with the police department for retention. He's just indicating it was a very frustrating meeting.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry your head hurts.
It was very frustrating. Yeah, and Chief Halsey and the FOP are working on those matters now in the next few weeks in a big capacity. So I would again make a motion to table anything to do with police retention and recruitment. There are also on the ballot in November 2 large items. I'm sure you guys have already heard. One is to amend Prop P for another $1 million to be allocated towards police officers. And there's a fire safety sales tax increase on the ballot in November. I think that with those things in play right now, this close to an election, I would again suggest that we table the police and fire retention and recruitment until at least after the November election. So as you move to those items, that's what I will be, that's the motions I will be making.
But it may not pass, unfortunately, and that it will pass. Hopefully it will pass. And with respect to the other two issues, the minimum wage, all I wanted to do is say the city of Independence ought to pay their people a minimum of $15 an hour. With respect to seasonal workers, college students coming back to mow lawns, that might not be applicable. But my feeling is that we need to go on record to pay a living wage. And, I don't know who can live on $15 an hour, but it's better than, and I have no idea how many people are less than 15. But maybe we would get some kind of a financial breakdown in regard to that issue. And that's all I brought it up for.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea with regard to the bonuses for COVID, we got a health department, they're spending $600,000 a year for health department, trying to get people vaccinated. And I know it's very controversial, but those employees and retirees, by the way, because they're part of the health insurance plan, who go out and get vaccinated, we ought to give them something. Yesterday in the news, a company called Cleveland Cliffs, probably nobody's heard of it, except they're the forerunner or the current owner of Armco Steel, decided to give their employees $1,500 up to $3,000. They increased the vaccine from 35% to 75%. Now, I'm not proposing that kind of money. I know the city doesn't have that kind of money. But I think we just ought to be able to look at that. And I think it's a timely issue. And to put that off until some date in the future, let's be proactive. Let's make Independence the best paying employer. I mean, hospitals are paying minimum wage of $15 an hour. You go to Costco, I shop at Costco all the time, they pay $16 to $18 an hour. Why can't the city of Independence?
Could we,
down the road.
Could we take each of these items per the agenda to make a motion, and can we talk about each item per the agenda?
Isn't that what we're doing?
Well, because we're addressing this, and this, and I've addressed this, and this. If we could take one item at a time on the agenda.
Yeah.
Could we do that so that we stay with one issue to discuss one thing, like whatever's next?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Like whatever next is it $15 an hour? I'm not sure.
Right.
I'm sorry, I don't have a printout of the agenda. Is that the next item on the agenda?
Minimum wage.
Minimum wage.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So.
Yeah. And then bonuses related to COVID.
Okay, let's do one thing. Let's do one thing at a time. Can we just do one?
I agree.
You know what I mean? Because I think we're going to get confused.
Sure. Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, Ron. On this item, I would make a motion that we refer this consideration to the city manager's office for review, for guidance, and for a cost benefit financial impact analysis. That's the motion I would make on this item.
Okay, we have a motion on the table.
Well, I'd second it, and then we discuss a little bit in terms of,
Can you speak into your mic, Ron?
oh, I'm sorry.
That's right.
I hate these things.
No, that's
I
all right.
know, they're hard.
You know, yeah, I'll second it, but are we including the entire package or just the one item?
I think we're talking,
I am only referring to, that's why I asked if we could stick to the agenda of following one item at a time.
Okay.
So this
all
is just the motion to take to the city manager and related departments as he sees fit, to, study this issue, come back to us with recommendations, and come back to us with a cost benefit analysis for doing this. Because he's also going to have to look at this in terms of how this would affect a budget.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I would say that we refer that in this motion, and then at the time we get that information back from him, whenever that be, is when we then further take up the issue on minimum wage. That's my motion.
Yeah, and I'll second that because I know we can't do much like that until the next budget year, okay? But we need to plan ahead so we don't get right up to
Yeah.
budget time.
well, do we need to give a timeline when we might expect the analysis and the review to be finished?
I don't know what an appropriate number of days or, months is.
Maybe one
Ma-
day?
Yes.
No, just,
Yesterday.
yeah, what's wrong with that idea?
So maybe instead of putting a particular deadline on
Timeline,
that,
okay.
that we say in the motion for consideration in the next budget cycle. Zach will then know how long it takes to do these things, how to get into the budget cycle, and he would present that to us. And I say Zach in terms of city management, whoever that is. Adam, Brian, Jennifer, whoever
He,
that is.
she, whoever, yeah.
Whoever presents, city management presents it to us for consideration for the next budget cycle.
Okay.
And let him decide when he would like to present those things. We have to understand that this is going to be expensive for the city.
It's going to be what?
Expensive.
Oh, expensive, yeah.
For the city. And we have we have
Agree.
7 union contracts that negotiate their own benefits. There's a lot to this, but I think I have to see more numbers, amounts, those types of things before I could just vote to say that the personnel board recommends a $15 minimum wage.
Right.
Hence my motion.
Okay, any other comments about that motion?
I'm fine with it, yeah.
Carl, anything on that motion?
Microphone.
No comment.
Okay. Kendra? Okay, so we have the motion. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Ron seconded it.
Ron had a second, okay.
Yeah,
That was hours ago. Okay, got it. And does everyone understand the motion? Do we have it? Okay.
Yes.
Anybody need that read back? Do we have a vote? All in favor of that motion, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Same.
okay, great. Okay, so the next item then on today's agenda was, the way we worded it was bonuses related to COVID. Yes.
I just want to say that a lot of the things that you're talking about, we are already talking about at a management level.
I bet.
So, incentives.
Can you fill us in on, for example, the minimum wage?
Oh, not minimum wage. This is the COVID.
COVID.
The
So
minimum wage is
you've moved
very
on. Okay.
complicated. That's a very complicated topic. But we are talking about COVID incentives, certain things. What can we do? It'd be great to give everybody money. But, again, that's a budget thing. Any condition of employment has to be negotiated with every union. We have almost 80% of our workforce is union. And we've had some very strong discussions with the unions about any type of, strong recommendation or mandate and what that might do. Not saying we're not going to do anything, but we're trying to think of more positive or ways to incent employees versus making it more punitive. And so we've talked about doing something within our wellness program. There's been at least one, Delta who raised their health care $200 for people
Delta
who,
insurance, not Delta variant.
no, Delta Airline. There's
Delta Airlines.
Yes,
Okay.
they
Understood.
raised their insurance $200 a month for people who are unvaccinated to try to move the needle. There's things like that we've talked about, but again, that could potentially be something we have to negotiate with the unions because of some of the language within union contracts. So it's a sticky subject, and all the cities I'm on it as listserv, everybody's sort of in the same boat. What do we do? Days off for people who get vaccinated, having company, city time off if you are vaccinated and happen to get a breakthrough case versus if you're unvaccinated, you have to use your own time. Those are some of the things that we're thinking about.
That's why I would like to make the motion, and also because of the presidential announcement yesterday. Obviously, we are an employer over 100 employees, that there may become a mandatory vaccination period. So I make the motion to table this until the, calendar. So we would regularly meet again on October 8th. So I would make a motion that we table this issue until the October 8th meeting, pending decisions that are made regarding anything to do with incentives, bonuses, procedures, any and all related to COVID vaccinations until that date.
Okay, do we all understand that motion? Anybody need it read back? Say it again.
I understood it.
Go ahead. Did you have something, Janet? I'm sorry. No.
Did you want me to read the motion or were you?
No.
No, we're just waiting on a second.
I'm just, if there was a second, but then I got a question, maybe our guest could answer for me.
Ron, can you speak into your mic, please? Can you speak into your mic?
Speak into your mic.
I'm leaning back, yeah. I said if we had a second, then we could discuss, and I got a question, how difficult would it be to bring together employees to accept a bonus? I don't know that would be that difficult.
Hey, Ron, bring that mic forward again. Bring your mic forward and restate that.
Okay.
Thanks.
So are you making a second so we can have discussion?
Well, I'll make a second on it, yes.
Okay. So we have a second, so now we can have discussion, is what you're saying?
Yeah. No, I just wondered how difficult it would be to bring the employees together in a collective bargaining environment with 5 bargaining units. And I mean, would they object to getting a bonus? I mean, I can't imagine, but maybe I'm wrong.
I
This
think,
isn't,
oh, I was just going to say, the issue becomes how much do you put on the table that it will compel the people now who haven't had a vaccine? Is it $25? Is it $100? Is
And
it $500? And what's the budget impact to that?
And are you gonna pay the ones that already did it?
okay, and
Go ahead.
could I please continue? We may have a presidential mandate that people have to get vaccinated. We don't know if that's going to stick, if that's going to go to court, if that's going to take 75 days as they're discussing or longer. So because, again, of the financial implications, the fact that we don't have any budgeted money to do this, we don't have any extra money to do this without dipping further into our reserves, which are far below the 16% level, at least in the general fund that we would like. And because we have 7 bargaining units that we may need to speak to, again, this is the reason for my motion is we are flying blind and we need to postpone this for more information, not only from the federal level, but also from the city management level as to how they want to proceed and in whether in fact they can afford to proceed. That's again my reason for my motion.
Okay, discussion about that motion. Questions, comments, good jokes.
My only comment would be that I wouldn't necessarily have to give them money, but maybe something more of it like an incentive. I mean, there's plenty of Chief fans out there. Maybe say, okay, if you get vaccinated, we'll put your name into a pool for drawing for Chiefs tickets with parking paid. That would be an incentive because, yeah, I would go to a Chiefs game on that level. Otherwise, I would stay at home and watch it on TV. But, I mean, there might be other avenues of not so much as paying them out money, but maybe giving them, say, an extra day off, paid day off. That's a great incentive. If my company would have said, hey, you get vaccinated, I'll give you another day off with pay. Yeah, I would have willingly took it, which I did anyway, but that's beside the point. But that's a great initiative. There's a lot of people that will do that just for the extra day off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Isn't there a bar that says you get a shot, you get a shot? Somewhere in Kansas City, I don't know.
Yeah, there was one.
There was one, yeah.
Yeah.
And the Mavericks are going to open up October 23, and the Comets are going to open up maybe, and I doubt they're going to fill up this year, either one. Maybe free tickets. I don't know what, whatever, they get people in the stands, people buy concessions and T-shirts and whatever. Maybe they'd be interested.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to reiterate this one more time. I mean, I've had both shots and a booster,
Oh, wow.
but the fact of the matter is exactly what Laura's saying. If the president mandated yesterday that anybody that's got over 100 employees has either got to make sure they all get the shot to stay employed or that they test them every single week. So all she's trying to say, I think, is that if he gets away with this, it's a moot point. Nobody has to give anybody anything.
Right.
They got to do it if they want to be employed.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I think that's all she's trying to say.
Right.
So giving stuff away, who knows? Your freedoms are at stake. It's a choice to get a shot.
Yeah.
But that mandate yesterday, if it goes through, and Missouri will probably be one of the states to fight him, it's a moot point, and that's why tabling it, I think is a good idea. Just my opinion.
Great, I agree. Okay, thank you very much.
Well, I didn't get the opportunity to hear President Biden yesterday because I was at work.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
it was good. He
I
was
would have
good.
been more up to date on that. But yeah, I agree. If he mandates it for anybody that has over 100 people working for them, so yes, it is a moot point.
Well, I'm going to just step in here because we already have like legal that have sent us stuff, and all the cities are, we're all very interested in this. As it stands, it's going to be an OSHA regulation, and municipalities do not follow. We don't fall under OSHA. So all the attorneys right now are saying we would be exempt from that. So I do think that vaccination incentives are a worthy conversation, but I do want to assure you that we are having those.
Okay.
We're having those, and we are trying to balance that with what we see and hear from the unions and the employees every single day. We already have a huge retention issue with our public safety. We already have 9 linemen that have walked out the door in the last 2 weeks to go to work for contractors. I mean, we are not in a position to force our employees right now to do anything if we want to continue to operate. I'm being very honest right now.
Again, that supports my motion that it is being looked at. We have laws on the table. We have lawyers looking at it. I'm sure we have the Stay Well Committee with the wellness group looking at it. I think we're in agreement, and that I would ask that we go ahead and please take a vote on my motion.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor of that motion, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Great, nobody's against that. Good. Okay, so the next one really isn't, I'm not sure. It's use of Zoom or team meetings for these gatherings. I'm not a big Zoom person, so, but is there any comment on that?
I would like to make a comment. I don't know how many of you saw the city council meeting 2-3 weeks ago. I'm sorry, I lose track. Where they are advocating that we not have mixed meetings. In other words, some that are virtual and some are here, because it is extremely difficult to facilitate that. I agree. Delta is an issue. Coronavirus is an issue. I would make a motion at this point that we continue to hold in-person meetings at this location. One, because they can be recorded, which is required by the city for the personnel to be able to watch. And 2, we are very able to socially distance in this room. And that would be that decision would stay in effect until we had some other pandemic related catastrophe that suggests that we don't meet in person, or the city council tells us we have to go virtual.
Comments about that? Do I have a second on that motion?
Well, I'm sorry, I'd agree with that if we can meet in this room, because this is a much better room than up at the city hall. More convenient for parking. A couple of us have a little mobility issues.
Yeah, a little.
And it's clean. It's clean and nice and
Yeah.
spaced. For heaven's sakes, let's have the meetings here.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
So,
Okay, do I have a second on that?
I second.
Second, and do I have a show of hands? Aye for that?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye?
I
Aye. Great. Okay, good. Okay. I think that was what was on our agenda for today. I think we accomplished a lot and we're ahead of time. We've got about 32 minutes or something like that. Do we want to, so the next time we will meet will be in 2 weeks, is what we decided, which was, this is,
September 24th.
September 24th with the agenda to come out on September 17th, and that we would be provided the documentation that Jennifer has, hopefully this afternoon, maybe even, and can then be distributed to others.
Can I just real quick review the motions that I have just to make sure that
No.
since we have a little bit of time.
So far.
no, I'm sorry. We can't do that.
Okay.
No, I'm just teasing. Go ahead.
This isn't a motion, but I'm going to resend you, Teresa, the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay.
And then I wasn't clear if you're going to send those or if I'm supposed to send those to the members.
Well, I think
Could I advise what we do on 353? Would that be all
on
right?
what?
Could I advise what we do on the 353 board?
Yes.
So on the 353 board, I chair that board, and my city liaison
Yep.
is Jordan Elena.
Mhm.
So what we do is before the meeting, by 3 days usually, I type up the agenda. I have the minutes that I have reviewed to make sure that I don't see anything obvious, that are then sent to Jordan, who attaches those to the meeting invitation that goes out.
Oh.
So he and I work together. I have a secretary who writes the minutes, sends them to me. I make all the,
Yeah.
clear changes up.
Yeah.
And then as a chair, I send my agenda, the minutes to Jordan, or in this case to Jennifer, and then she or someone in her department puts out the meeting invitation with those items attached for review. That's how we handle it in the 353 board.
I kind of like that. So in this case, in our case, we would have the minutes and the agenda, and I would prepare that and send that to Marissa.
Marisa.
Marisa. Marisa.
It is Marisa.
Marisa.
Yep, Marisa.
I think I'm gonna write that down. I don't think I've been pronouncing her name right. So I
Most
would
people
send-
don't. But that's okay.
So I would send that to Marisa, and she would take it from there and see that it's in the, see it's on the web, in the format that it needs to be on the web. And I think that I would hold all of us accountable for accessing the web and getting our copies.
The meeting minutes can't be posted to the web until they're approved.
I'm sorry.
The meeting minutes can't be posted to the website until they're approved.
Right.
So they would so like for the next meeting,
behind myself.
that you would email to us the minutes of the July meeting.
Yeah.
The minutes of today's meeting.
Yeah.
The agenda for the next meeting.
Yeah.
They would all be in emails to us from
Yeah.
Marisa on the Outlook calendar.
Yeah.
Thing, invitation.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
So we will not have to go out and pull them. They will be provided to us. Then once we approve them, then in that case, then I tell Jordan, they've been approved. After the meeting, he gets those posted up to the website.
Right.
But unapproved minutes and agenda needs to come to the members of the board.
Yeah.
In an email.
Isn't that what I said?
No, you suggested we go out to the web and pull the minutes. The minutes should not go out until they're
Right,
approved.
right. Okay. Okay, are we straight on that?
Yes. Because trust me, I hate being on a computer any more than I have to be.
Okay. Okay, Okay then.
Okay, can I review the
So
motions?
said Ken. Okay, look, I'm sorry.
Can I review the motions real quick?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
So
sorry. We're back to that.
So the first motion is that there will be a personnel board meeting on September 24th at this facility, IUC, and it will be specifically to review the timeline document that the attorney firm Lauber put together to discuss the process on how we will move forward in reviewing, recommending, and approving personnel policy and procedures.
I love it.
Okay? And it was
And love.
seconded
And that
and
ag-
approved.
Yeah, and that, and this is a little more procedural, but that agenda
Oh, yes.
with those documents, I don't think
By
that's part
no
of the-
later than 9/17.
You got it.
I
Thank you.
have that in here. Yep. Okay. The second motion is to refer the minimum wage of $15 an hour to the city manager's office for guidance and a cost benefit analysis, and that they would bring back that information to the personnel board for consideration in the next budget year.
Correct.
I love it.
Okay. The next motion is to table the discussion of COVID bonuses until the October 8th meeting due to laws, presidential mandates, and things that are currently happening. This is my words, at Mach speed. So basically to table until October 8th.
Yes.
And then the last motion was to keep these meetings in person at the IUC, which is here, until which time either a pandemic related event or the city council indicates we can no longer meet in person.
Correct.
And all those were seconded and passed.
Yes.
Did I miss anything?
I'm thumbs up.
Okay.
I think you captured it very well. Thank you. And those meetings are with masks. And I think Ron was going to provide refreshments at each of our meetings. Did you hear that?
I don't think he heard it. But
Oh, Ron did. Did you hear what I said?
Say what again?
And that you would provide refreshments at each of our meetings. I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. Oh my Lord.
I think I would make a motion to adjourn.
Got to quit that.
Sure.
Yeah, we've got about 25 minutes. Is there any? Yes.
Well, I want to thank y'all, the five of you, for allowing us to participate in your meeting. And I also would like you to know that I appreciate the suggestions you made in regards to the police and the fire. If you weren't present at Tuesday's council meeting, I would suggest you pull it up and look at it. It was one of the more interesting council meetings I've attended over the last 40-some years that I've been involved with the city. There was an issue that was supposed to be addressing one of the big problems with the police that did not get passed. Hopefully that will be corrected in the upcoming council meeting. But I know you all voiced numerous times your concerns about the situation we're having in police work throughout throughout the whole country and here in Independence. There's some very important things coming up in regards to that in the next meeting. I go to all of them. I feel like I have to stay in tune with everything that's going on, and I really appreciate you let me give my feelings about your board, and that I want to be interested in things that come up that could directly affect me. And I just wanted to thank you all very much for letting me participate in your meeting. Thank you.
You are welcome. We appreciate you being here.
Yes.
We would like, you're invited and encouraged to bring more. Okay, the input of not just retirees, but the input of the community and the input of anyone helps us to better the community, better the city, and that's all of our goal. My goal here is to make this city the best
Yes.
city to live in.
I
Yes.
appreciate that, sir.
Okay?
Yeah. Keep it healthy and safe and, yeah, so, yeah. We can't do that by ourselves. There's 5 of us.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome. So, is there a motion to adjourn?
I made a motion to
Oh, I'm
adjourn.
sorry, I didn't hear you.
I
Sorry.
second.
Okay, aye.
What are we voting on?
I made a
On
motion to
adjourning.
adjourn the
Okay, I'll
meeting.
go for it.
We're out
Yes,
of here.
sir. How are you doing?
Get out. Thanks for
We
your
are
help.
DONE.
Okay.
Would you work in Iowa, Jeff City, Iowa?
No, I worked in Ames, Iowa.
You know what?
I was human resources
I heard about
director.
that.
So I'm from here, you know.
This is not new to
Like a
me.
couple days later, I
Well,
realized
I'm over
all that
70.
crap was going on. I bet
And, you
that.
know, I
daughter was
went
up
to school.
there.
Oh my.
Freshman,
And
She's
she
only
Mizzou,
got, she's
Kansas.
only 14.
So I grew up
But
there.
her
Came
mother